Who doesn't love a Supra or a Skyline with
1,000 horsepower?
So today we're gonna walk you through how you can tune any car to produce, well, any amount of power. After we've tuned our monster in excess of 1,000 horsepower, we're going to see if we can tame the beast, or if we messed it up and end up with just a loud smoke machine that has a mind of its own. If you're worried that this is gonna be a complicated process, well, I'm not gonna lie, it's not. So come on, let's get started. First off, you're going to need the paid version of Content Manager for this. If you're using the free version, you can donate any amount you like and you get an email with your activation key to unlock the full features. It's absolutely worth it if you ask me. Think of it as modding your car for a couple of dollars. Now that you've got the paid version of Content Manager, head on over to the About section and you'll see the version number. Click on it a bunch of times and a window will pop up asking if you want to enable developer mode. Click yes, and this will allow us to unpack the files that we're going to need for the next step. So now let's go ahead and find the car that we want to modify. We'll start with tuning a normally aspirated car before we go on to show you guys what I do with turbocharged cars. And there's no other NA car that I could think of that needs a bit more power than the Toyota GT86. Let's make the GT86 into the car that everyone wanted, shall we? Head over to Content, Cars, and select the GT86 here. Because we enabled developer mode, we have this button below that allows us to unpack data. Hit that button and there'll be a data folder created. And because we don't want to overwrite any of the existing Kuno's car data, let's duplicate the folder of that unpacked car before we go crazy with it. Head on over to your root Assetto Corsa folder, Content, Cars, and duplicate the KS_Toyota_GT86 folder. To avoid any issues, copy the car only after you've unpacked the data. I'll show you why when we get to the next step of amending the files. Now head into this duplicated GT86 folder and the data folder inside of it. There's a bunch of files here, but we're going to be interested in only the power.lut file since this is a naturally aspirated engine. For turbocharged cars, I edit a different file and I'll show you guys how I do that after we're done with this Hachiroku. Right-click on power.lut and open it up with Notepad. Remember how I told you to unpack the data before copying the car folder? Well, if you didn't, there's a chance that your file will end up looking like this when you open it up in Notepad. If this happens, just delete your duplicated car folder and unpack the data first before going back to copy the car folder. Back to our power.lut file. To help you understand what you're looking at, a LUT file basically stands for lookup table, and it basically tells the car how much power it makes at what RPM. So in this case, at 3000 RPM, the car is being told that it should produce 184 horsepower and so on. Let's go ahead and bump up the figures. Don't go too crazy because too big or too sudden a jump can lead to issues with traction control or the suspension. So let's try going up to, let's say, 290 horsepower at 6500 RPM, and we'll taper that down as the RPMs increase just like how it would be in a real engine. Save this file and head back into Content Manager. Make sure you're looking at the duplicated car. You can tell by this little green dot at the side, and then we want to click on Pack Data. Click yes to overwrite the old data file and the car folder will pop up once Content Manager is done editing the data.acd file. Now that we've packed the new data, beside the dyno chart, right click on the BHP figure and click Recalculate. Now look at that power. Do the same for the torque as well. And then looking over to the dyno chart of the car, click on the three dots here and then recalculate curves using data and power. Now you can see, let's lay out the before and after dyno charts here for the car, and you'll see what a nice bump of power the car has now. Contain your excitement because there's one last step we need to do, which is to click on Analyze and you'll see that you have a missing sound bank file. Click on the button to fix it, and then click on the Replace Sound button and choose the GT86 again as the reference sound file. You could actually replace the sound with the sound of any car, but I'm choosing the original GT86 car. And now what do you say we take our modified car out for a spin? In the drive menu, our new car will have this green dot beside it, so make sure you choose the correct one. I think it's time for a drag race. Time for tuning some turbocharged cars now. Just to recap, for NA cars earlier we tuned the power.lut file. For turbocharged cars, I find an easier way is to adjust the boost pressure. For this example, I'm going to use the Kunos R34 GTR. Same as before, click on the Unpack Data button, then head to your root Assetto Corsa folder to duplicate the car folder. And in that car folder, look for the data folder, and instead of the power.lut file, we're going to edit the engine.ini file. Now the R34 makes around 325 horsepower at current boost levels, so what we're going to do is bump up that boost. Boost. It's currently set at 1.2, so let's see what will happen when we go to, I don't know, let's just say 3.2. And there's a wastegate setting here too, but since we're not worried about overboosting, I'm just going to set the wastegate value to 0, which is essentially no wastegate. And just for that real old school big turbo lag kick, I'm going to adjust the reference RPM here, which is the RPM where the turbo reaches maximum boost. So let's try 5000 RPM and see how that goes. Now you'll notice that there's turbo_0 and turbo_1 in this file. So just change the figures for max boost, wastegate, and reference RPM to match what we did under turbo_0. I'm no expert in tuning cars in Assetto Corsa, so if any one of you has any idea what the difference is between turbo 0 and turbo 1, do let me know in the comments below. I'd really appreciate that. Once that's done, we can save the file. Now instead of editing the engine.ini file that you see here, you could also edit the power.lut file if you want, but bear in mind that the figures that you'll see there are before they are multiplied by the max boost amount. I find that it's more fun editing the boost amounts as I can literally hear the blower valve sounds in my head as I'm amending the figure. Back into Content Manager, make sure you're looking at the duplicated R34 with the green dot beside it and click Unpack Data. Click Yes to override the old data file, and let's update the BHP and torque figures by right-clicking and recalculating them. 1300 BHP. Let's do it for torque now and let's see what we get. Oh man, this is going to be insane. Let's see what the power curve looks like now by clicking on the 3 dots here and then recalculate curves using data and power torque values. Because we shifted the reference RPM, you can see here at 5000 RPM where the power is at its peak. Set this at too low an RPM and you just get too much boost at low speeds and the car will just be absolutely undrivable. Same as before, click on Analyze and fix the missing sound bank file followed by Replace Sound. You could choose the Kunos R34 or any other R34 that you have in your library as the reference sound file. I'm going to go with this Z-Tune R34 just for the fun of it. I'm not even sure what it sounds like. And now the big test. Is the car any good or have we absolutely ruined it? Okay, now first impressions. You know what? The car is actually still very drivable even with this crazy amount of power. It's probably saved by the clever all-wheel drive system, and I'm sure this much power in something like a Supra is going to be a different animal to manage. But yeah, overall, even with 1300 horsepower, this R34 is actually still drivable. Have a go at modifying some cars and let me know in the comments below what you ended up modifying. If you found this video, do click on the like button and do subscribe to see more Assetto Corsa videos. I'll see you guys at the next video.